Check. Hello, everyone. Great to be here. My name is Ariel from SSV Network, and I'm very excited to be here today. Let's begin by making some noise if you ever heard about the term DVT. Hopefully, there will be a lot more after this one. So at SSV Network, we are building distributed validator technology, also known as DVT. Our grand vision is to help the decentralized Ethereum with the core belief that Ethereum security should be in the hands of as many people or as many entities or as many node operators as we can, but vulnerable to none of them. And I think this notion really set up the stage in order to understand exactly what DVT enables to do. But I would like to start first with the question of why do we even need it? So looking at the current state of Ethereum, it's pretty obvious that stake centralization is a big issue and a risk factor. There's a few entities controlling the majority of the stake, which is very problematic, not only because of the amount of stake that they manage, but also due to the fact that the bigger they are, the bigger the systematic risk on Ethereum, on the Ethereum ecosystem, which really affects all of us. Also, single entities are more susceptible to censorship and regulation risks. I think we all witnessed a couple of weeks ago when the SEC came cracking down on Kraken's staking program. And due to economics of scale in staking, there's just not enough incentive in place for large providers to distribute their infrastructure, which really affects client diversity and contribute to potential single points of failures. So what is DVT and how does it help us transition to a more decentralized Ethereum? So distributed validator technology is a new technological primitive in the evolving Ethereum stack that enables multiple non-trusting parties to run an Ethereum validator collaboratively. It works by splitting a validator key into a set of key shares and distributing those key shares to operators within something we call a cluster or a validator cluster. Now, each operator in that cluster has a share out of the complete key, and once a duty comes in, they each sign it partially. They all aggregate the signatures to reconstruct a full and valid duty to be broadcasted to the beacon chain. Now, each operator in the cluster has a share in a way that it doesn't have or it can reconstruct the full key, which means that you don't need to have your signing key in a hot wallet anymore. Put it in cold storage, follow key management best practices. It basically means that it's a lot more secure. Also, these operators can run using different setups, right? Like different clients, different hardware, different data centers, different cloud providers. So you can achieve greater client diversity. And also because that we use threshold signing and a consensus protocol, you kind of have a fault tolerance built in inside of this thing. So if an operator will be to go offline, it will not affect the overall performance of the validator. As long as the threshold is met, it will continue to function as normal, meaning it's a lot more resilient. So with that said, the benefits of DVT are pretty substantial. This shift in the validator operation dramatically increased the liveness and security of the network, while also significantly reducing slashing, downtime, and centralization risk when you compare this to the traditional validator setups. And by improving the resiliency of validators and Ethereum consensus layer, we can help transition Ethereum into a more decentralized and secure network for the rest of us. So what can you do with this thing? Because after all, it's an infrastructure, and infrastructure is supposed to be used in some way. So you can build great staking pools or liquid staking pools using DVT. You can have greater operator participation, meaning the risk is shared between more people, also in a way that gives higher performance, which translates to more optimized rewards. Going next, institutionals and staking providers can use DVT to decentralize their infrastructure and mitigate risk associated with a high-scale single validator setups, but also in a way that reduces their operational costs because you can run more validators on the same setups. Stakers who want to solo stake can leverage DVT to access the performance of experienced and reputable operators. They can choose them to manage their validators in their behalf and not have to run their own infrastructure, which is a huge barrier, but also do it in a way that they remain in full custody. And lastly, but not least, DAOs, groups, and communities can come together and run their own validators in a very trust-minimized and reduced risk way. So now that we learned about DVT, let's circle back to SSV. SSV is not a consumer staking application. It's a DVT infrastructure provider designed for building high-performance, secure, and decentralized staking applications on Ethereum. The way that we decided at SSV to implement DVT is as a multi-cluster DVT network, and we did it out of the notion that a safer Ethereum is a multi-cluster Ethereum. We see the future. Ethereum is going to have a long tail of different and new staking application. These staking application will not use the same operators. They'll have different operator sets, a lot of variations of clusters, and to support this future, we built DVT as a network. And we did this by adding two more core components. Firstly, a robust peer-to-peer pub-sub network, but we also added a smart contract layer on top for coordination. Why did we do it like this? Or what are the benefits of doing it as a network? Well, in SSV, operators and stakers can join the network at any time in a permissionless way using a smart contract call. Having smart contracts means that there's zero coordination needed in case you need to manage your validator, in case you want to offboard the network, in case you want to change your operator set due to, for example, competitiveness of other operators or for performance reasons. Also, being a network allows the participant of the networks to enjoy network effects, right? So any tool you would develop for a specific cluster can be benefited by the entire ecosystem. And I think this really reduced the development costs for across the board. Going for the network approach instead of an isolated one also gives you greater transparency, right? As a network, you can see your operator performance in the validator level and not just the cluster one, which means we can all make better decisions regarding who we choose to manage our operators. And the best for last, it's a reusable infrastructure, meaning you can use the same network, the same setups, the same operators over and over again, and the cost of integrating SSV is practically nothing. It's literally a smart contract call, and I think that's pretty amazing. Because building infrastructure for staking, it's very hard, it's very complex, it takes a lot of expertise and resources, and now that we have this available, this infrastructure available as a service, it means that the teams building on top of SSV can focus on their business, focused on their application, but not on the infrastructure beneath, which means that for the teams who will build the next rocket pool, it will take 3 months and not 3 years. And we know this firsthand because we already have teams building exactly this in those timeframes. So a little bit about where are we now and where did we come from. SSV started about 2 years ago when we received a grant from the Ethereum Foundation to develop an SSV node, which was later then termed DVT. We then formed the SSV DAO. It's very important for us to be community-driven, to be transparent, to have a lot of people involved, and to have these levers in place for the check and balances for a protocol with this impact. We onboarded more than 40 different contributors around the world who share our passion for staking and decentralization. And for the last 18 months, we've been running on testnet, during which we had participations from over 3,000 operators, out of which 100 of them are verified operators. And by that, I'm referring to reputable and experienced staking providers. Some of them are the biggest in the industry that are experimenting and testing this technology with intention to adopt it in the future. They are currently running a testnet SSV node which you can pick and try out today. We also accumulated more than 20,000 validators. It was important for us not to only see that it works in scale, but also that it works in power and better than the current benchmark. And I'm very happy to say that it does. Now, around all of this time, we also put a lot of focus on building a very healthy and vibrant ecosystem around our protocol, from leading staking providers, from strategic partners, from staking application. And as you can see behind me, we already have more than 25 different teams building an application dedicated to use DVT and SSV as their infrastructure, which really shows that the state of Ethereum, which I talked about in the beginning of my talk, will look a lot more different indeed in the future to come. Now, I want to use this opportunity to call out all devs here to check out our funding programs. We recently launched a 50 million grant ecosystem fund with the goal to support teams building DVT-based applications. So if you're interested in staking, if you're a serious team, if you know how to execute, come talk with us. We would love to partner with you. I personally think that with the Shanghai update just around the corner, there's never been a better time to capitalize on this and get into staking. So with this said, where are we going from here? So as I said, this has been in the development for the last 2 years. Currently, we are in the last stages of finalizing our V3 testnet, supposed to be launched in April. V3 testnet is our release candidate, and with audits scheduled and underway, I can safely say that DVT will see mainnet this year, and even sooner than you might expect, so keep an eye out on our progression. If you want to hear more about us, check out our site. Marco from our team will be having a presentation later this day about DVT and liquid staking pools. Very interesting. Come check him out. Also, if you have any questions or want to talk, we are having a booth in the DAO section throughout the conference. My team and I will also be outside for any questions you might have. Thank you for listening, and have fun this week. Bye-bye.